Good evening, Learning Journey. We'd like to welcome you to another Healing Journey support group. It is such a pleasure to have you with us this evening. I am solo right now. Uh, we're having, again, some issues of getting into our program. It's because they changed some things, and you have to stay on top of all of these changes. So we're just waiting for our guests to arrive. Anyway, I hope that you all have had a wonderful weekend. And tonight we were supposed to be talking about the Boys and Girls Club and, how important they are as a community resource. When we look at our communities, we need resources like that that will keep our young folks in a structured environment and off of the street. So it's very important that we think of the Boys and Girls Club. Years ago, my kids went to the Boys and Girls Club, and I can attest to how it kept them out of harm's way at times. It was also a resource for me because I had to work. And they met other young kids. They did basketball and swimming and different things. So I was so glad for the Boys and Girls Club. But we welcome you this evening where we have our special guest, Miss Opal. She is going to be with us this evening, Miss Opal Walker Warren, and she is the director of HR for the Boys and Girls Club. And you can correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, but we welcome her this evening. Again, we like to partner with our community. It's very important that we try to work in our communities because change needs to happen in our communities. Think about our kids that are privy to certain adversities in the community and then they act them out. And that way they're setting themselves up, or they could be setting themselves up for harm. They could be setting themselves up for a life of crime, imprisonment. So the Boys and Girls Club is a redirection for that with many other community resources. So again, we want to welcome you, and we're going to let you go ahead. But I just want to touch on your vision. And your vision is to provide a world-class club experience that assures success within the
Absolutely.
reach of every young person, no matter race, creed, whatever. And I like that because you are not singling anyone out, but you're there to help all. And you know as well as I do, our kids go through a lot of trauma and a lot of things of that nature. So being a mental health clinician, I hear a lot, and a lot comes from the community. And a lot of the communities are set up to fail. So if the communities are set up to fail, what do you think is going to happen to our kids? But here is the Boys and Girls Club that can help out. And Opal has a master's degree in trauma. So she's able to assess kids and help them and speak with them. And sometimes all they need is a safe place to be able to express themselves. And that's what this is. This support group is a safe place for you to come and let us know what's on your mind, what you're dealing with. And that is so important. So, again, Opal, we welcome you this evening to
Thank
the
you.
healing journey, which is the learning journey, because we're learning along this journey.
Absolutely. We're learning together and I love it. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. As Lynn said, my name is Opal Walker Warren. I serve as the Director of Social Emotional Development and Program Impact for Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida. What that simply means is that I support our organization's effort to becoming more healing centered. As we learn about trauma, how are we responding to the trauma we're learning about? How are we supporting our parents? How are we supporting our members? How are we supporting our staff? How are we supporting our volunteers? How are we meeting our board members where they are and just lifting them up and teaching them what we know about trauma? Um, Currently, we started hiring counselors within our clubs So to date we have hired two counselors, and we're projecting hiring more counselors because we realize that many of our members since COVID, and I would say prior to COVID, but since COVID, this has brought a more of a light to what's going on. Many of our members were home, stuck in the home, stuck away from their friends, stuck away from their daily routines, stuck away from food that they would normally have when they go to school. If they were living in a situation where it may have been abusive, they were stuck in those situations. So going back after COVID, we realized that we had to be more intentional about how we are providing support for our members. Now, a lot of the times our focus was at the clubs, right? Making
Mhm.
sure that we are hiring the right staff, making sure that we're onboarding them and we're training them to be proficient in delivering a world class club experience. And what does that mean, right? That means our members have an opportunity to be greeted by the staff in a fun, loving, heartwarming, and nurturing way. So that's what we call our warm welcome. And then after our warm welcome, we would have our opportunities to build community where our members and our staff would just get together in a non threatening way, learning about each other, building community so that they're building that rapport. So when trouble hits, we know that they're already connected and they feel safe to get support. And we also have another part of our program where we develop what is called a social contract or a group agreement, where all the participants of the space get to share how they want to feel during their time in their sessions with their peers and also with the staff that is with them. So that's where we do our group agreement or a social contract. Another part of our program is where we deliver high quality skill building experiences that are planned out, that are prepared ahead of time, and our facilitators have an idea of how they want the lesson to run with the youth voice in it, because including a youth voice, including youth choice is a big part of making a youth or supporting a youth to being safe. So just incorporating those intentional pieces in our programs where youth can work together, learn together, grow together. They're collaborating together, and they don't have to feel like an island, right? If they're learning a skill, their peers are sitting beside them and they're collaborating. They're talking about the activity. They're talking about their skills. One person might be good at this piece, another person might not be as good. So just that teamwork, that collaboration work is a very, very important part of our high quality program experience. Another part is making sure that our members have an opportunity to reflect on what they have learned, reflect on their experiences, talk about their learning, right? That's an important skill. Being able to see how can I take this and use it in my everyday life? What can I apply this to? How is this beneficial? Because when they see the benefits, then we know they are going to want to learn more, of course, and practice what they have learned. Okay. And then another part of our program, high quality program element would be our recognition piece. We make sure we recognize our members and thank them for their time, thank them for holding the space with us, encouraging them, maybe giving them a little tidbit about what's to come the next session or something that's coming up in the future sessions. So we try to really, really make sure that we are intentional and we're not just throwing programs at our members. We're being very intentional so that they can be successful and they can be engaged. They can be active learners, active participants in
That
those sessions.
You mentioned some important things. Our kids need to be recognized. They
Mhm.
need encouragement. And first, I want to apologize. I don't know why I have HR, because I
No
know what you
worries.
do. We work together here. And I don't know why I had human resources in my mind, but
No worries.
whatever. But, I just want to thank you for the job that you do. Because as you talked about the things that were important, COVID did a lot to our kids. They missed that social engagement, and we're now seeing the fallout from that. But with what you all do there, you encourage them. How many of those kids get encouragement at home sometimes? How many of those kids get recognition at school? So what you're doing, you're encouraging them to grow. Plus they can collaborate. Together, they can help each other build relationships and friendships, and also building social skills. So, all the way around, when you look at that, that is so important. And then you support the youth in a safe environment. Our kids need to be in a safe environment.
Yes, they do.
And that is so important, where once they're in a safe environment, they'll divulge a lot of things that are going on in their life. And that is the time for redirection.
Absolutely. And not to cut you off, oftentimes when we hear about a safe environment, we often think about the physical safety, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
we want to make sure we're taking the emotional safety piece into account, because if they don't feel physically and emotionally safe,
Hmm.
thriving is really, really, really not not at the front of what's happening for them. you
Yes.
know they're spending many, many hours just trying to regulate if they don't feel safe. So we want to make sure that they are in a physically and an emotionally safe space.
And that is so important, so they can become vulnerable. And,
Mhm,
they'll become vulnerable and tell you things when they feel
mhm.
emotionally safe. And you, being a trauma specialist, having that knowledge of trauma, how much of that do you see in our young people?
I see that quite often. I just feel that trauma is all around. We all have some level of trauma in our lives. It's those protective factors that we have that helps us to become resilient, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So for me, making sure that I train the staff first and foremost to
Hmm.
identify that trauma is real,
Yes.
let them understand how trauma may show up
Hmm.
in a youth, how it may show up in a parent,
Hmm.
how it may show up
Hmm.
in a coworker.
Yes.
Just because this work of trauma, it cannot be done in silo. It has to be at every single level of the organization. And that's why I am elated. I am just so blessed because our CEO is very passionate about the work we're doing, and not just with talk but with action as well. So I'm very grateful to be in this space at this time,
Hmm.
because I feel supported. I feel that our members will get the support they need, the families will get the support they need. And as we collaborate, right, because we're
Yes.
collaborating, um it's only going to get better,
Yes.
right? Because for me, I feel that when we're in the clubs and we're teaching our members and we're loving on them and we're increasing their knowledge about trauma, and they take all of this information and take it back home, right? Then what's happening, right? So not only are we working with the members, we're also working with the parents and the caregivers, right? Because we know that not it's not always that the parents are the caregivers. Sometimes
Yes.
we have extended family who are caring for youth, and we want to make sure that we're inclusive in the dissemination of that trauma informed, or sometimes I like to call it a healing center care,
Hmm.
best practices. So we're bringing everybody who's involved up to speed. In our organization, it's not just the people who are working directly with the members. You know,
Hmm.
our kitchen staff, our bus drivers, the janitor, everyone has to become informed. If youth are crossing paths with you,
Hmm.
you need to be informed
Hmm.
about trauma, and you need to understand how it shows up. Because for me, a janitor can help to support the work we're doing.
Yes.
Our kitchen staff can help the work we're doing, right?
Hmm.
Just by a smile, maybe how are you doing today? Maybe seeing a youth unable to regulate, but and they can identify that that is not the child acting out, but there's some real issues. There's something going on with that child. So just letting everyone understand how trauma may show up. Now, not it's not always trauma, right? Because we know that there could be other things going on.
Hmm.
However, until we can rule that out, right? We want to make sure that we're keeping our members safe and we're giving them the benefit of the doubt to say, um, not what's wrong with you, right?
Right.
But what
Right.
happened to you.
Right.
And how can we support you? How can we meet you where you are and support you? And that's just what we do. I'm just so grateful to be in the space where I am helping and supporting the leading of this good work. I call it the heart work.
And you're so perfect for it because you are trauma informed. I wanted to ask you about the parents because, if the child has trauma, it might not have come from the parent, but they might not feel privy to telling the parent. So a lot of times the parents can be traumatized by what goes on to their child. How much collaborating do you all get to do with the parents when you see suspicious behavior or behavior that is not warranted and could get that child in trouble? How much interaction do you have with the parent?
So we have an open door policy with our parents. We want our parents to know that we are here. We are an extension of them. Many of our members call our clubs their home away from home, right? So we want to make sure that we are truly representing that extension of the family, right? By having communications, and for me it's so important that the staff is trained,
Mhm.
because the most important thing you can do to a parent for a parent is let them feel welcome.
Yes.
Let
Yeah.
them feel welcome. Let them know that you care about them and their child.
Mhm.
Because if you operate from that space of care and concern, and that I'm here to support you, I'm not here to judge you, I'm not here to look down on you, I am
Exactly.
here to support you, I'm here to meet you where you are. And I do it all the time. I use myself as an example a lot because I was never always here. I am a work in progress, right? So I will be vulnerable and I will share a story of
Mhm.
one time when I was not the best, or I did not make the best choice in
Mhm.
terms of discipline or in terms of correcting or course correcting. I feel that this work takes vulnerability, because a lot of time when people feel that they're being looked down at or they feel like they're being judged, that opportunity to be open and to be connected and to be real gets lost.
Exactly.
So I feel that my thing is, it is so important that we connect with parents. It is so important that we let them understand, build that rapport, because a parent may show up late for the child. You're not going to jump on them and be mad. You're going to talk and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Because if you take the time to hear what happened before they came, why
Mhm.
they came late,
Mhm.
you would understand, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about connecting. And I do this with this is a part, this is something I say in my training. Connect before you correct,
Oh,
right?
I like that. I like that.
So even with our youth, right? I ask our staff, let's connect with them before we try to correct them and try to tell them what to do and where to go. And they have enough of that going on throughout their days, right? Connect with them so they can know that we care. And when somebody knows you care, you can go a far way with them. People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Mhm.
So
Those are
cover the
very important.
care part, and then everything else will fall into place.
Mhm. Lee, I know you're beaming over there with questions for her.
Not a whole lot of questions. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
My
I love
pleasure.
the part that you're doing with the trauma because that's so important when, like you say, when it happens within the home, outside of the home, even with their peers, they may very well go through a whole lot. I like that you establish relationships with the
Yes.
children and with the family too, because that's so important. It makes it all it comes full circle when you can work together when the problem or the trauma or what have you come to be. I like also that with all of the things that you say that you go through with the children and you teach them or they learn as a
Mhm.
result of being with you and stuff. I like also that there's application that they can go home and the things that they learn, they can apply them at home or in
Mhm.
their community. So my hat's off to you for all the good work that you all do. That's
Yes.
A
wonderful.
community that works together heals together.
That's right. And that's why we thought it was important because, we are focused on the loved ones because, or
Mhm.
the caregivers. And I know, Lee, I know you love that name right there, the caregiver. So,
Bam.
it's not always a parent that raises a child. It could be a
That's right.
grandmother, it could be, an aunt or a caregiver. So that's important that, that we reach out to them. And also, the one thing that stood out, and Lee and I try to do that, transparency.
Yes.
Sometimes if you're transparent a little bit and you tell them a little self disclosure of what you've been through, that can also help to build that relationship with that
Absolutely.
individual.
Building that trust. Yeah.
Yeah, building that
Yeah.
trust and creating that safe environment.
Yeah.
So my hat is off to all that you all do there, and one of the most important things is your commitment to inclusion.
Mm.
Gender, you
Yes.
think
Mhm.
how many of the kids are bullied because of this and that, but you all are dedicated to, youth and teens of every race, ethnicity, gender expression, sexual orientation, ability, social economic status, and religion. That says a lot about your organization.
We are doing the hard work,
Oh,
and the hard work does not exclude anyone. It
it
does
is
not exclude
important.
anyone.
I
It
am so glad
truly
for
includes
that.
everyone. Yes.
So
Yes.
glad for that. And
Mhm.
your work, your mentors that you hire as well, the same practice goes
Absolutely.
into effect with that.
Absolutely. So as a member, so with us, we are Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida, but we are under the umbrella of Boys and Girls Club of America. So as a part of that membership, there are many guidelines that we must adhere to.
Yes.
And for those who know about Boys and Girls Club of America, they know that we do not turn anyone away.
Mhm.
We do not exclude anyone. We welcome everyone. We welcome human beings. Sometimes we even welcome the little pups, the ones who are the caregiver pups. We welcome them in the cubs too
There you
because
go.
they have healing to offer, right? So
That's so important,
Mhm.
Opal. I mean, when you look at it, there could be a loved one on here today, and there could be they may have some questions because maybe their child or loved one is in prison or recently arrested, and you have other children at home, and you're concerned about their behavior. Enroll them,
Mhm.
set them up for good mentors, a good safe environment, collaborating, growing to prevent them from going in the system. And I like that. That is
Absolutely.
so important. So important. And I have a comment for you here. PTSD is very real in children. Children can't pay attention to focusing on planning future goals because of life situations have caused or is causing trauma.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And as I say, for me, it, we don't have counselors in every single club. However, our trauma informed best practices that we are implementing are supporting people who have experienced trauma and those who have not experienced trauma. So that they even serve as a buffer, right? So that down the road, if you were to experience trauma, you have already developed and built some of those resiliency skills,
Wow.
right? So for me, it's really about building the self awareness, building the self management, building those resiliency skills, those soft skills, because, it doesn't really matter what your intelligence IQ is in
Mhm.
terms of for your success,
Mhm.
right?
That's right. That's right.
It's really your emotional IQ that carries the brunt of that weight for
Yes.
your success.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we are putting our members, our families, our staff in a good place to not to not just have the brain to do the work, to answer the questions or to pass the test, but the brain to also self-regulate, develop social skills, social awareness. It is important for us to have empathy. So if you don't have those other skills, it's going to, your degree, although
Mhm.
you have one,
Mhm.
might not mean as much to you.
That's right.
And so I would say pay close attention to developing those skills that are going to help you to work with others, to empathize,
That's right.
to
That's
read a room, right? To,
yes.
to read someone's feelings that you may have hurt, right?
Mhm.
Those are the things that carry you further along in life.
One thing also that you all do that we love and we are, encouraging is restorative practices. And restorative practices, I know that, let's just look at your position, social and emotional development. A lot of our children don't develop the social skills, as you've just said. So if they don't have the social skills, then emotionally, it's hard for them
Mhm.
to adapt in certain social situations. So I love your position and what you're doing. Like I said, you're so well suited for that position. But the restorative practices as well, you are also building community with that. You're adverting, yes, you're adverting so much. And we like to talk about that. Our focus has been on restorative practices. If there's a way to keep our loved one or keep some of them out of the system, restorative practices is the way. It's also building character, building community. It's doing so many things. And your response to restorative practices there has it been positive?
I'm gonna be vulnerable because
Thank
my
you.
journey with the restorative justice practices really began with my personal story, right? Of wanting to mend a relationship with my oldest child
Mm,
and how to go about doing that, right? So that is when I really started, and not that that's the only relationship that needs to be mended, right?
right.
But if you're going to talk about like it being intentional,
Mm,
I knew that there's ways to make it happen, and I wanted to make it happen. So I just started exploring, I started learning, and as I learned about it, I realized that the work that we are doing in the Boys and Girls Club is already poisoning us to make that practice a
Yes.
phenomenal practice within our organization, because restorative justice is not that easy if there's no community, right?
Exactly.
So when for me, because we are so intentional about building community with our youth and our family and our parents and our colleagues, I feel that that is like the next natural way to go when you're talking about behavior and making righting a wrong and making the people who are involved coming out feeling whole,
Yes.
right? And not just the person who the harm was done to, but also the person who did the harm, right? So for me, I just feel that that is the ultimate way of teaching a peace practice
Mm-hmm.
that can only just blossom into something beautiful, because I'm not going to restore like a relationship that doesn't exist, right? So the fact that there's a relationship and there's been some kind of wrong, then let's heal together. Let's
Exactly.
heal together. Let's heal the community together. Because oftentimes we think it's only that one person it affects. No, but when you're a part of a community,
Mm-hmm.
it affects different pieces of the community differently.
Yes.
So I just want us to have that openness, have that mindset, that restorative justice practice is not just for the person who did the wrong or the person who it was done to, but the greater community as a whole. And that's why I love that practice.
Thank you for being transparent. We have Wanda Perkins. She is on our board and she is the vice president of the Florida Restorative Justice. And, that's one thing that was important to us. Anytime we can avoid the system, that is what we do. We would like to refer. We're the connectors. So we connect them instead of legal at first. Let's connect them with restorative practices to see if this can be worked out. Also, a couple of months ago, Michael, who is the president of the Florida Restorative Justice, he was on and he talked about his journey with restorative practices because his son was sentenced to, for 23 years or whatever, and restorative practices, how it changed his life behind bars, but not even changed his life, how Michael's life changed and the other family. Lee, you remember that story? That was so important. And if
Mhm.
you don't know about restorative practices, it is important to really get in and it's just something. And Wanda has put on here, Wanda Perkins, she's the vice president of the Florida region. She said she would love to connect with you, Opal. And
Awesome.
yes, and if you really think about it, Opal and I met at the Peace and Justice workshop, and it was so interesting because we connected right away. We were in restorative justice practices, and she was trauma, and I'm like, wow, I would love to work with her because I'm a trauma specialist, and we shared that vision of restorative practices and trauma and things of that nature. So I just thank you for the work that you're doing. You're an awesome woman and you're so well suited for that. They couldn't have picked a better person than you, Opal, for that position.
You know who picked me.
Look, you are perfect for that position, Opal.
Thank
And I'm
you.
so glad to call you friend. I'm so glad to call you one of my business associates, how
Yeah.
we're building community
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
I never know when Leah and I never know when there's a loved one on here who has another teen. I need help. Okay, well, let's refer you to the Boys and Girls Club for
Absolutely.
social and emotional
That's
development.
right.
It
Yeah.
is very important. And I know referring them to you when they're in your care, I know they're going to be okay.
Amen. Amen. And just to give you some other information about the Boys and Girls Club, we do so many things. We have
Yes.
high quality arts programming. We have workforce engagement and getting our members ready and prepared. We have college and career
Wow.
support. We have dedicated staff who support our members, whether it's filling out their FAFSA, applying for college, their essays, you name it. We have dedicated staff to support our members from the moment they come in to the moment they leave us.
Wow.
Academic success. It's just I am honored to work with such a group of people who are so passionate about the whole child, right? And
Yes.
not just
Yes.
this one
Not
part
a
or that
piece
one
of
part. It's the
yeah.
whole child, and making sure that we support that. And thank you so much for having me on. I
You're
just want to say we connected at the Peace and Justice Institute, and within that short space of time, we have met, we have planned. It's amazing. So I
welcome.
just want to say thank you for the space that you are holding for restoring justice, right? For trauma informed, and just for welcoming at me in your space, and I could not be any more humbled, because you don't know, but I'm already looking at you as a mentor,
Oh,
because of this work that you're doing, and because of how you do it. And I've learned so much from you already.
oh, well, thank you, Opal. You know, the Bible says our people perish for a lack of knowledge. So
Yeah.
you just opened my eyes up. I never knew you had the college and all of that. So thank you for being a part of our show today. And parents, loved ones, caregivers, I hope that you just grasp this knowledge because we are here to support, to educate, and inform. And that's what we just did. Lee, do you have any closing remarks?
That's another tool that can be used. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that I'm able to meet you at this point and stuff. I like that your staff is also trained to deal with the youth that they're working with and stuff. That's so important in order to be able to reach them where
Yes.
they are when they come in. And the information and the stuff that you do with them will also prepare, even with the incarcerated that we deal with. It might be a family member, it might be a brother, sister, mother, father. As a result of what you're doing, they might be able to understand a little
Mhm,
better or relate to them a little bit better and be more
mhm,
supportive
mhm.
as a result of what they get from your Boys and Girls Club. So thank you so
Exactly.
much for being
Oh,
here with
my pleasure, my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Opal. We appreciate it. And we plan on having you back again. And I
Please
look forward to
do.
working with you. And I am
Please
going to
do.
connect you with Wanda. And
Yes,
Wanda is the vice president. So, you know what? Your world is opening up because of who you are and what you do.
that's
So,
right.
we thank you.
I
We
am
applaud you.
humbled. I am humbled. And
Thank you so
please do
much.
not hesitate. However, I can support your
Thank you.
listeners, your parents.
Thank you.
I am here wholeheartedly. Okay.
Thank you. We're going to do a trauma segment again, and I'd love
Okay.
to have you back on with that.
Awesome. Take
Okay.
care and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Good
You
night,
and you
everybody. We'll
too.
see